Hello, my name is Andreas Gomez, but most people call me Scott. From the time I was a freshman at high school, I knew I wanted to be a musician. Kevin Garcia-Hettinger has been one of the most influential people in my career as a musician. I started at Brandeis High School in 2009 and I finished in 2013. I was not supposed to go to Brandeis originally. At the time, I was actually zoned to go to another high school, but that high school had a joint summer program, and it was at that summer program that I got to meet Kevin Garcia-Hettinger. He was everything that you kind of expect an orchestra director to be. He seemed to be very passionate in the way he conducted. He knew exactly what he wanted from his musicians and his students. He really knew how to run a rehearsal. Like I said, it wasn't actually supposed to go to Brandeis, but after that first day at that camp, I went home and I told my mom, I want to transfer to Brandeis High School. And she was a little unsure about whether it could happen or not because we only had a week until school started. But she went to the district building and had the transfer done. And the day before school started, I got approved for the transfer and I was able to start at Brandeis High School. Over the first few years at Brandeis, he started to develop kind of like an expectation for his varsity players. And it got to the point where he expected his varsity players to at least audition for all-state orchestra. In my second year, I had a better idea of what it was, but I didn't have a private teacher at the time. So I auditioned kind of just with my own skills, and it didn't really go that well. But my third year at Brandeis, Kevin had organized a group of San Antonio Symphony players to come to Brandeis and teach sectionals. Through that connection, I actually gained a teacher, Marissa Bushman, who was the violist. My junior and senior years, I was actually able to make All-State fairly easily with that extra help. In my time at Brandeis, I remember so many different times going to the symphony and going to perform at different venues around the city, whether it be La Cantera, the local mall, or the McNay Art Museum. He was always trying to find a way for us to be a part of the music community in San Antonio. Through his efforts as a teacher, I feel like a much more well-rounded musician. Because I transferred to Brandeis High School, I wasn't the typical demographic. I came from a moderately poor family, and my parents had also split while I was in high school. By the time I was a senior, I realized what schools I was going to be able to apply to in my financial situation. But I was still having a really hard time getting to those schools and applying to those schools. And I remember this one time I was feeling very stressed and very upset, and Mr. Garcia asked me to come into his office because he could see I was visibly upset. And he asked me what was wrong, and I told him, I really want to be a musician, I really want to audition at these schools, but I don't have enough money for this one application fee. And without even thinking, he told me, I'll pay for this application fee for you. And it was, upwards of $100. And I was able to audition for that school, and I ended up getting into that school. And it's just one of the many things that he had done for me as his student. Mr. Garcia has also shown to be an exceptional musician. From his expertise on violin to his mastership of conducting, Mr. Garcia knows exactly what he is doing when he's conducting his classroom. As his student, you could also see how Mr. Garcia was respected by his colleagues. When we would go to events, everyone would be shaking his hand, super excited to see him. He was very well regarded by his professional colleagues. I am proud to call Kevin Garcia-Hettinger my high school orchestra director.